JameStation64.
There comes a time in every gamer's life, especially a retro game collector with a YouTube channel, where you end up subjecting yourself to something truly horrendous. After playing through 4 good to great games from the N64's launch window, that streak was inevitably going to end. And of course, in walks FIFA 64 to take a dump all over my favourite games console. It's difficult for words to express just how bad FIFA 64 is, but I'll give it a go. It doesn't get mentioned enough in the Hall of Shame of candidates for the worst N64 game, probably because it's a sports game, but it really should be down there. Let's backtrack a bit first and show how we got to this point. I love football and I'm generally a FIFA guy, but the truth is the FIFA series took a while to find its feet. The first game in the series, FIFA International Soccer, released in 1993 and appeared on just about every console imaginable. It was part of the newly christened EA Sports series alongside big hitters like Madden and NHL. Like the newly branded offshoot of Electronic Arts as a whole, it was on the Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis for my North American viewers, where the series really made its initial home and was a huge success. Honestly, it's not a great game to play now, and unlike later installments, it doesn't actually have any licenses except the FIFA license, so no real players here, just a series of countries with made up names for players. The isometric style gameplay that became popular on the 16-bit systems is very stiff, but is an otherwise reasonable effort for the first FIFA game, but no more than that. FIFA 95 would be released as a Mega Drive exclusive before FIFA 96 would return to being released on every console imaginable. The Mega Drive release was the first FIFA game I had as a kid, and even then I didn't particularly like it. If the first game was stiff, this was like wading through treacle. Button input was as accurate as a drunken handcuffed sloth, and I don't think I ever managed to even score playing this game, never mind actually win a match on it. How they managed to take such a backward step in 2 years is beyond me, but at least you had real players and teams this time, I guess. However, that wasn't the only version of FIFA 96, as a separate 32-bit version was made with a totally different engine. I have the Sega Saturn version. Complete with the John Motson rap song, the game does improve on the previous efforts. I was pleasantly surprised revisiting this game as I hated it the first time around, but it was far more responsive than the 16-bit iteration, so playing it at least was more enjoyable than being waterboarded. It's not good, don't misunderstand me, but it is playable. FIFA 97 would be released in the autumn of 1996 on 16 and 32-bit platforms. Unfortunately, this would be too late for an N64 release, especially in the football hotbed of Europe, which wouldn't get the N64 until the spring of 1997. So EA Sports took FIFA 97 back to the drawing board and tried to make some modifications. In particular, they wanted to beat Konami's International Superstar Soccer series to the punch in the West. What N64 owners got was a muddy looking mess full of footballers who look like badly animated Silent Hill monsters where any command other than run ends up in disaster. It is genuinely difficult to come up with any good things about this game. Even the box art is woefully uninspired, with Bebeto on a plain white background with the most hastily drawn logo you'll ever see. I'm crap with computer art programs, but I also don't work for a major company where producing game packaging is my job either. This is just lazy. The North American version is better, but they also opted for Jordi Cruyff for some reason. That's like having Sean Dundee on the front cover of FIFA 99. Too bad he already had his own football game on the PC. Legit, that's actually a real thing. So I suppose I should break it down even further. Those stiff controls from previous FIFA games are back, a little bit less so than the 16-bit version of FIFA 96, but not by much. Passing still doesn't work properly, press pass and it may or may not go where you aim. Tackling doesn't work either, so you can press the tackle button and you may or may not tackle your opponent. The only consistent way of playing this game is when you get lucky enough to have the ball, is to hammer the run button, sprint past all the defenders and have a blast from within the area. The stats are so unrealistic that it doesn't matter who has the ball either, so Tony Adams can make like Diego Maradona in 1986 and skip past every defender to score a wonder goal. Bear in mind that player stamina seems to be collective as opposed to individual. If one player makes a long sprint, then for some reason this makes all your other players incapable of sprinting for a while. The only other option is just allow the dumb as a box of rocks AI to go and score an own goal for seemingly no random reason with no attempt to stop it. You can never trust the goalkeepers in this game either. FIFA 64's creators seem to code every goalkeeper to be like Massimo Taibi against a speculative Matt Letizia shot from long range. There is a good chance that yours or the opponent's keeper will just allow the most straightforward shots to creep in for seemingly no reason. Presentation wise, things get no better. The animation is stiff and very mid-90s, which wouldn't look so bad if it didn't all look so muddy. It's clear that EA Sports hadn't got to grips with the N64's anti-aliasing capabilities, resulting in the game looking as if the camera's been smeared with Vaseline. The big addition from FIFA 97 is the much vaunted picture-in-picture camera. What this means is another angle of the action is placed in the top right hand corner of the screen. Unfortunately, is a completely useless feature. You're too busy concentrating on the main action anyway. Also, it covers up a huge area of the screen, meaning it is actually harder to see what you're doing, and the additional strain on the console on an already creaky engine cuts the frame rate down dramatically, a complete waste of time and energy. Sound-wise, the game isn't too bad. John Motson's commentary isn't the most varied or inspired, but it also isn't irritating, and the crowd noise could be a lot worse. The worst thing is that it's probably the best aspect of the game. Yes, the game's strongest suit is something I described as could be a lot worse. Very promising. This was the first N64 game released in Europe to have a multiplayer option, by the way. But why would you subject a family member or a friend or any kind of loved one to this game? Well, I wasn't going to do that. That's like making a friend of yours gargle using donkey urine and razor blades. Needless to say, this is an utterly appalling game in every single way, and I cannot possibly recommend it to anyone other than the most hardcore of N64 collectors, and even then only because it's one of the cheapest and most common games on the system. So I'm going to give it a 0 out of 5 because it deserves absolutely nothing other than your complete disdain. Fortunately, EA Sports would learn their lesson, and in the autumn of 1997 they would release FIFA 98 with a completely new game engine. I would argue FIFA 98 is the first genuinely good FIFA game and certainly the first to challenge the might of Konami. So that brings us to the end of another trip down N64 memory lane. The next time I bring you some N64 goodness will be the cracking Wave Race 64. But before then we'll be checking out something outside of the Nintendo 64. Check me out at JameStation64 on Twitter to get the latest updates for the next video. Until then, enjoy the John Motson rap song from FIFA 96 and I'll catch you later.
Somebody say, oh yeah! Oh yeah! Yeah! It's hit the post. Fantastic. He's missed. Fantastic. He's made a mess of that one. Fantastic. He took it well. That looked nasty. Brilliant. Brilliant goalkeeping. Brilliant goalkeeping. It's in. It's there. It's in. It's there. It's in.
Fantastic!